Hey, everyone.
You know, it's crazy. I knew that was coming, and it started tapering off, and I was like, oh, wait, we have to do a live.
It's so beautiful. It ends so well. Chef's kiss.
There you
Perfect.
go. I don't know who wrote it, but they did a good job.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a mixed producer there, but
Yeah, the remix.
yeah,
But I guess we'll go ahead and start. I'm Jeff Fuller from Fuller Embroidery Works, and that is Matt Enderly from Patch Phrase.
that
And
is amazing.
No Mac today. Or
No,
Justin.
Matt. No, Justin. How could you mix me up with Justin?
No, Mac. It's a four-legged animal that.
Mac.
Yeah.
Well, maybe names should be a little bit more or less confusing.
Well,
let me bring up my window.
You should rename your animal to something a little more easier for a little more differentiating there.
Well, I guess we'll have to figure out exactly what to name him then.
I'm pretty sure it's easier to change your name because he's already learned his.
He knows puppy.
He knows.
Come here, doggy. Or treats. Or go for a walk. Car ride. Ice cream.
All the magic ones. But if you guys are watching, go ahead and let us know where you're watching from. And we will be monitoring the comments to make sure that they're commented. That's my magic word today. But today we will be talking about, well, we'll actually be in the Chroma software. So I see a lot of questions on the Chroma software, and I figured that we could address quite a few of them today. So we have a design and we have some chaos, and it will all ensue, I'm pretty sure. So let me go ahead and take a look here.
Hey, Jeff, you know what you should do? In the top of StreamYard, you should add your Chroma group real quick. If it's not too late.
If it's not too late.
I can add mine, but I don't know if it's going to allow you to do it on the, like right meow, or if you're going to have to restart.
Ooh, that is a good question. We might have to do it right meow.
Yeah, we'll see.
We'll see. We can always add it to the description later. That's always a possibility. But we will go ahead and bring up the software. I'm going to add my screen. It's that one. As you can see, we're in Lux today, and we have the Sophisticate restaurant for the elite. So I was asked to add a D to that. So it's Sophisticated. I loved it. Restaurant for the elite, and it's pretty much mostly text, and I figured we would go ahead and give it a couple of shots to see what happens when we're going through. So the first thing we're going to do is, besides move it, and now I have to move it back, we're just going to auto digitize it, and we're going to see what happens. I have a feeling it's going to be magical. It does sound dangerous. So generally, when I'm doing a Left Chest logo, it's like 4 to 4.5 inches wide. I don't really go that much further than 5. Mainly that's because if you have like a 5.5 inch mighty hoop, your actual sewing area is like 4 3/4 of an inch. So you tend to stay within those hoop sizes to keep it a little bit smaller. So we'll just go 4.75. That gives us a 2-inch height all over. So we will click on the next button, and it's picking up a lot of colors. And we will click on the next button again, and we'll see what happens. Should be magic and work. It should just work. Maybe. I don't know. My computer's thinking awfully hard over here. We'll see if it turns out better the second time than it did the first time.
If you need to get a new computer, maybe like a 32-core Threadripper with a 3090 RTX.
I would accept that. You can go ahead and donate to that at the following donation link, my house. All right, so this is what we got from auto digitizing, and we have a lot of objects there. We actually have a couple of complex fills, which I don't see any fill shapes. Those are all pretty much satins. Let's just select one and see where it is. The base of the U, that's an interesting place to put it. And we got a lot of run stitches, which mostly look like I'm guessing they were using that for like shading because the design was a little crackly. We'll just delete that and get rid of it, and we can bring back the artwork by clicking on the Bring Back the Artwork button. It's always nice when you have a button. So we'll go ahead and pull in some comments. We have Heather from Bonnybridge, Scotland at 1 a.m. I'm glad you're with us. That's a little late. And we have Lyndon here. Good evening, guys, from North Carolina. It's good to have you here. So I think the easiest way to transform this to where we can actually digitize it is I think we're just going to go by height. That would be my best bet.
Sounds like a great plan.
Doesn't it? It's always a great plan.
What could go wrong?
Yeah. I mean, nothing besides all the obvious things.
And you always got Control Z.
I just got Control Z. So we're going to go to, let's say we go to 2.5 inches. Look, we zoom in, everything's great. So if we look here, we're roughly, I don't know if I like that. I'm going to go down to 4 inches because we do have to add a D on there. So we need to make sure that it's there. I generally, when I size stuff, I size it in inches and then I convert to metric. So we're about 101.6 millimeters for the width. And that should be, I mean, that's going to be cutting it close inside like a 5.5 inch mighty hoop, but, or a 15 centimeter, but it should be okay. Like if you're running an 18 centimeter hoop, but I figure we'll go ahead and digitize it at this scale. And then we can come back and we can look at the height and the width of the fully digitized design. So next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to click over here and I'm going to lock it because I don't want to select it or move it or wiggle it or any of that stuff. And finally, the last thing I'm going to do besides magic is I'm going to measure everything. So we're going to grab the ruler tool here. And I like to measure the width of the columns because that's too narrow. So we're going to have to manipulate the text a little bit to get it to where it's going to be a sewable width. Generally, you want to stay like above a millimeter. And we're just a little under a millimeter here in a few places. So we'll bump that up and go from there. So that's the small text. We've got some thinner lines here. We'll go ahead and bump it out a little bit to compensate for that. And yeah, it should be magical. So let's go ahead and get started. The first thing I want to, what?
This is very magical.
Very magical. I'm using the fancy terms because
just saying you'd be done if you did auto digitizing.
Remember we did that.
It looked beautiful.
It was fantastic. All right, so I'm going to actually bring in some grid lines. So I want a grid line on. Well, that is obnoxious.
So first question, grid lines for what? And then second question would be, can you dim the artwork?
First question, maybe. No, the grid lines are for, basically it's for push and pull compensation. So I want to be able to look at my my letters and know that they're going to push out on the ends. And so I like to set guidelines for when I'm digitizing, so that I can make sure that when it does actually push, it's going to push and actually go an even height all the way across. So my open-ended satins are going to go longer, and the horizontal satins, that's the word I'm looking for. The horizontal satins are actually going to pull in. And so by adjusting for the push and the pull in the beginning, you're actually setting it up for success so that it will be all flat at the baseline after it sews out. And the second one, I believe we've got it as art. Let's see what we can do with the backdrop. So what if we load a backdrop and we go there and we say we want that one? And the backdrop is going to sit better, so we're going to use that. I don't know where the heck that went. It disappeared. So there we go. Now we need to rescale it, so we need to go back and do the in there. We're going to define scale, and I'm going to draw a line here. So define scale is actually a really handy tool because it's asking me how long is that in millimeters, And I want to say that it is 2 inches. Jeff doesn't know. So we're going to change it by right-clicking up here. We're going to go to inches. And we're going to do that again. We're going to define scale. So we're going to come up to the top again. We're going to come down to the base, bring it straight. And there we go. My requested length in inches. I'm going to say that that's 2 inches. I'm going to hit OK because the enter key didn't work. And now we're defined a scale. And when I click off of it, we're not going to be able to select it unless we use the backdrop tool. So I guess I should have brought it in like that at the beginning. But here we are. So I've got pop-ups, Matt.
Virus, don't click it.
Virus. There we go. So I'm going to drop my first grid line right there. And I'm going to bring another one to the top. And those are going to be the ones that my like the top of the R is going to go to at the top of the T. That's going to be the grid lines that those are going to go along. And I'm going to drop a satin, and I'm going to backspace because I should have locked it to the grid. So how I like to do this when I set my grid lines is I actually digitize the satin, and I go in and I change the, not that, the density to a 0.5, and then I'll line it up with the stitches. So we're going to grab that object there, and I want to turn off the 3D view. We're going to zoom in here a bit, and I'm just going to move that down just a smidge. Just a smidge. There we go. Doesn't want to let me use my arrows. Right there. So now I can bring down my second grid line. There. And now we got to move that up. And this is all just defining for my push and my pull so I can manually compensate for the objects. I don't like to use the push and the pull in the software because there's actually something that I really don't like when it does that, particularly when you get into like O's. It can get a little scawampus, and that's a lot of text. So I'm just going to start. There's a lot of text, Matt. I don't know what you were thinking. That's a lot of text. So we'll go ahead and start here at the R. I'm going to use the classic satin tool because I like that one.
Didn't your client say they only wanted restaurant on the third line? They didn't want any of the other text? They wanted it to say the sophisticated restaurant?
Yeah, I'll go with that. I mean, I can always digitize the rest of it later too. We'll just go with restaurant. So we can talk about the small lettering. And I'll go ahead and bring that up. And I'm going to backspace. And it takes both points when it does that. And I'm actually looking at changing it to metric. So in the bottom right-hand corner right here, it's actually going to tell me my column width. So when I start digitizing the points and coming there, down here you can see when I digitize my right side and I come to digitize my left side, it's telling me approximately what that width is. So my width is 1.7 there. Now we're about 1.3. So I'll go ahead and do that. And I got a knot. There we go. Come up just a little bit and there. And I'm going to end the object. It's going to ask me for my start point, which is fine right there. My stop point is going to be up here. And now I've got that. This one I'm going to go all the way to the top, and I'm going to come down. And I'm going to come down to about a millimeter, roughly. And we're going to work around this object. So we're going to put in some straight nodes and some curved nodes coming around. Go there, and if anybody has any questions while we're going along, please make sure you're asking them in the chat. So we're going to start there, and I want to end right here because we're going to have our next object go right there. And we'll just go ahead and keep on moving down. And I am going to kick this out right here because I do want to end just a little bit higher. So if you notice, I'm ending the object. Oh, I put that in the wrong spot. We're going to have to fix that. So let me move that. Let me bring the stop point there, the start point there, hit enter so that it goes. I'm going to change that stitch angle just a little bit right there. And there we go. So I'm flaring it just a little bit here because we do have that serif on the bottom. I want it to push down and I want it to still kind of have that serif. So we're adding that little push there. So now we've stopped there. I want to run up. So we're going to come this way into the E. and my start and my stop points are fine. If I don't want it to trim, you know, I could trim on every single one of these letters, but these are all so close to each other that you're never going to see that single stitch that's going to drop right in there. It's just going to automatically go between the two. And you won't see it. So up, I'm coming down roughly 1.1 millimeters. And I'm definitely watching that because I want to make sure that I'm not going too high. Start there, and there's fine. Switch to the run tool. We'll come up to there. And we will move a little bit further there. Come up. Make sure I've got the right tool selected. That would be bad, right, Matt?
Yeah. Does Chroma have shortcuts for tools?
Chroma does. We have a list, actually, of Chroma keyboard shortcuts on the website. On the Embroidery Nerd website, you can see here that Classic Satin is number 9. When Chroma first came out, there was no list of shortcuts, so I actually went through and I tried every single key combination until I found the ones that worked. So that's how that shortcut list got built. It was a great time. Let me taper that down just a little bit. And I want to start over here, and I'm going to have it end right about there so that we can just jump straight into the S.
Well, we got a comment from the one and only Maldo. Hi, bye. Maybe someday I'll catch another one of these. Well, yeah, at least you got to stop in and say hi. You officially made it onto a video.
There you go. That's all that matters, right?
And then we got Brittany's Unique from Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Hey, I got a Wisconsin shirt on because I'm from Wisconsin too. How about that? Them Packers and cheese.
As long as it's the important stuff.
Yeah, except I'm only like 40 minutes north of Milwaukee. Well, except that I'm 8 hours away now, but grew up like 40 minutes north.
And I have to edit that object. You know, I got a new mouse at the one and only Micro Center, and I'm trying to digitize using it, and it's really throwing me off because usually I use a roller ball, and this is actually a real mouse, and I'm not used to it.
Well, to digress you from your discomfort of using a real mouse, we have Letty Walker asking, how is Chroma compared to other programs? So since you are the best person to ask about this because you have probably owned literally every single piece of software embroidery-wise, I feel like you're the most educated on this. So
hi, I'm Jeff. Welcome to my TED Talk. So it's different than a lot of the other programs that are out there. From what I see and in my personal opinion, I think it could have more features than it does. But other than that, you know, they all plot stitches. It's just some things are done a little bit differently. Like Wilcom, when you're coming around the arch of a U, it's going to shorten up that stitch length with the underlay, where this isn't. So we're going to have to make sure, like you can kind of see it here on this S, this stitch that runs right here. That's more than likely going to get caught and looped outside of that S because it's not shortening up those stitches. So we just need to make sure that we're doing the things that other software we take for granted does, and do those a little bit more manually. Otherwise, I think it's an okay software.
And the software itself is relatively new-ish because it's only been around for like 2 years now, maybe.
I think it's only been 2 years. They came out with it. Yeah, it's got to have been 2 years ago. It's so I guess it's relatively new in that aspect. It is made by AGS, and they make the software for like Dime. So they make software for a few companies. So it's not a new company. It's just more a new version of software, I guess.
Yeah, just different feature set.
Right. So we want to make that over there by where it ends. We'll bring that there. And I'm just going to go ahead and digitize that whole U. And Matt, the comments are pretty quiet today.
Yeah, it must be a holiday or something.
It's definitely a Monday. Oh, wait, it's Tuesday.
Yeah, you had me there for a second. I thought today was Wednesday, actually, but
yesterday all day I was like, it's Monday. And it wasn't. Or no, it was Tuesday. Yesterday I thought it was Tuesday.
I was going to say it definitely was a Monday yesterday.
Yeah, it was. So we're going to put our start point there and our stop point there.
Yeah, because it might have actually gotten the butterfly going, so we'll see.
So I've got an R here, and rather than redigitize an R,
that's cheating.
I'm going to copy, and I'm going to paste, and I'm going to group, and then I'm going to drag it.
That's hacking.
Oh, no, it didn't copy and paste the whole letter.
And then you got to make sure that you didn't duplicate the that and have a double satin column there.
We both know I did. It's only a problem later.
It was like the patch I ran yesterday. I was like, there seems like there's awfully high amount of stitches here. Turns out the entire patch was duplicated on top of the design. So I was like, that was weird, but yeah, that would have been one bulletproof patch, that's for sure.
When it starts to so you're like, it's done, and it starts over.
Yeah.
I'm going to taper this in just a smidge. Those are my official terms, a smidge.
We have a couple more comments. One from Rashid. Hi from sunny California. Yeah. It was pretty sunny here in Nebraska. It was nice and warm, like 50-some degrees. Just t-shirt weather. Saying thank you guys for your time and expertise. We appreciate having you guys all joining in with us. What we're here for. Suzanne saying hi. Hello back to you. And then we got Dustin saying hi, gentlemen. Hello back to you. I think maybe we should just pull him back into the live sometime again. That was pretty.
I think we should do that. That was pretty fun the last time.
We can bring him in now, and he can just make fun of you for clicking in the wrong spot or something.
I mean, it wouldn't be the first time people made fun of me for clicking in the wrong spot.
Aren't you done yet?
Hey, I've got one more T, and again, we're going to just copy, paste, group.
I mean, now you might as well just make the whole alphabet.
We're not gonna talk about what.
Is there a font creator, or is it you just got to export different like RDE files or something?
Sorta. So it has a font editor, I guess, where you can actually import fonts. You can keyboard map fonts, which is kind of nice. So if you buy a DST font or a some kind of font off Etsy that's a machine file, you can map it to the keyboard. You can't really resize it very much, but you can still map it. And then it also has where you can manually digitize the fonts. And I actually prefer their font interface to a lot of the other softwares out there. I think it's done just it's executed a little better. So you can.
And those connector lines.
Yeah, that's interesting. We'll take.
I see a lot of people in the Chroma groups asking, "How do I get rid of these?" So
to get rid of these, I'm actually going to select it, and I can hit the trim. And
it did nothing.
Did nothing.
No pressure.
So I can also come over here, and I can look at the commands. I've got the tie in, the tie off. I want to be a basic, and I'm going to have it trim and hit apply, and that should help with that one, you can see that it's got the lock stitch, and then it's jumping over here to this N, which is kind of like way over there. But that one is also going to be, if you go into your start commands, you've got your tie in, which should be to basic, your tie off, which should be to basic, and your trim. I would tell it always as well. And it auto did that object there, so that's fun. Let's go ahead and turn that on to auto. So we need to see which object is trailing. That one's moving from there to there. And that in. Yep. This is live.
This is exactly how it goes.
It is. There, got it. And now we're moving from that. That's actually that A that we're moving from that we need to apply a trim to. And that one went through. That goes there. We need to make sure that we have the commands to tie off. So anytime you throw a trim in there, you always want to make sure that you're adding a lock stitch for it to lock. And that looks like it's going there. And we'll grab that object there.
Seems kind of clunky of a way to do it that way.
You know, I think it handled it better in the past. There we go.
That makes it feel like that's a more advanced user suite of tools there.
Yeah, and there's like, it hasn't ran through the stitch filter yet. So when you export the file, it's going to run it through a stitch filter. It's going to say, you know, any jump stitch, because that's what those were. Any jump stitch that's longer than, let's say, 7 millimeters or 8 millimeters, we're going to throw in a trim. And you can set that in the tools, general options, and spend a minute. So activate trim if stitch is longer than it has it set for 20 millimeters, which I think is a little bit too long. So I'd actually go down to like 5. And that means that if it's going to throw a jump stitch in there, it's going to filter that and it's going to say we need to trim. So, but I can manually go in and I can add those trims individually, which is also an option because I do want to make sure that I'm getting my lock stitches in there. Highly important things.
Right. So a customer asked, how long do you spend looking through the fonts to find the match for the font in the picture?
So generally when I do that personally, I look on one font finding website with the image that I have. And if it doesn't find it, I just manually digitize it. I mean, I could spend an hour looking for a font when it would have taken me 30 minutes to digitize it. So,
yeah, I would agree with that. I used to just type in what I wanted next, like underneath the text, and then click on the text and then just scroll through the font thing and just keep hitting down until I find one that matches. But then none of them match quite right, or that A is a little funky.
Yeah, and I mean, when I started, I did the same thing. I always tried to find a matching font. And I have thousands of font on my computer because of it. And so when I need to choose a font for something, there's too many options. And I don't need that many options. But I'm going to show you guys what I was talking about earlier. I'll put that there. I'll put that there. When it comes to the O and push compensation. So there's actually a value in here for push compensation, which is pretty nice sometimes, but there are times that it can be hazardous. That's the word we're going to use, Matt. Hazardous. Not beneficial. I'm trying to think of all the words.
Terrible. Horrendous.
Well, it can cause an issue in the design. So
real clunker.
Yeah, we'll come down here, and I'm not even going to overlap those. I'm going to drop them right on top of each other. We'll do that, and then I do want to edit some of the nodes because that looks horrendous, but we're not going to tell Matt that because he thinks it looks beautiful. All right, so with this letter here, selecting it. Okay, I was just making sure my computer didn't die. We can go into our push and our pull, and we can actually add pull compensation. So that's our pull compensation. We can apply push compensation. So let's say we're going to do push and we do 1 millimeter, right? You can see what just happened right there. So even if you have like a circular letter, it's still going to add push compensation to the ends of those satins, and it's going to put a gap in there. So that's why I don't use push compensation, mainly because that. Although down here it would have been fairly handy because, you know, I'm manually setting that push compensation, but I find it's easier to manually digitize your push compensation because of that reason right there. It's just easier to have full control over that. So, and I do need to remember that I have to change my settings. So after this P, I'm going to change the settings on my small text so I can make sure that it's going to sew out well. This is not my mouse. But I like it because it's got buttons on the side. So that makes it easier for, you know, other things. But
officially sponsored.
Yeah, officially sponsored for other things. So let's go ahead and grab all that text. And I want to start with my underlay, which it's not going to want to do. Let me grab my satins here. Excuse me.
Gesundheit.
I'm allergic to something. I don't know what.
Your new gaming mouse.
That's probably it.
You weren't sneezing until you got it.
Exactly.
It's either that or you picked up a bug at DAX.
I don't think
Which is what we also could have did a live on, but
we were too busy looking at the toys.
Yeah. So I'll give you the rundown of DAX. We got there. We went to a class, all three of us, and watched Stahl's Transfers Express pretty much sell us on an idea, which is pretty cool. Maybe more to come in the future, which I just spoiled it, but no, good thing you guys didn't hear that. Then we went on the show floor. I commented how it doesn't appear to be any embroidery machines here because I don't hear them. And then Jeff pointed to a ZSK that was running right next to me that I apparently didn't hear because it was so quiet. And I officially would love to have a ZSK now because they're so quiet.
I mean, there were a few that were pretty quiet.
Yeah, they were all actually very quiet. There's Tajima there. A SWF, the Genome I don't think was even being used.
No. It looks cute on the little shelf though.
Yeah. I don't think there's any others there. I think that was pretty much it.
Yeah, there wasn't a ton of machine manufacturers there.
Yeah, because
Melco was there.
Yeah, Melco was there. Yeah.
But other than that, there wasn't a ton. But it was good. All the screen printing stuff. Adam was actually kind of bummed because he couldn't see the. He wanted to see that screen press that they had. It was like automatic and 6-head.
Yeah, and then you would have BJJ shirts.
Yep.
.com. And then what else? There's that. Yeah, I think we pretty much talked to Liz at GSG for a good couple hours and spent a little bit of money on oil pens.
Yeah, oil pens are nice.
Yeah, it was actually really nice to use it on the butterfly last night while working on it.
Yeah,
I have running better, but
I have a refillable one, and I use it to maintain all of my sewing. I have one on all my sewing machines because it's really nice to just be able to take it and put one drop in the rotary hook and not have to worry about it.
Yeah, this one appears to be refillable too, and there's like a little metal collar on it. So on all my machines, I have little magnets that are stuck to it, so I can just slap my these embroidery nerd snips and just have them right next to every head. Then I got one extra where I could just slap an oil pen up to the side. That worked. I feel like I had like head trauma or something because I can't really remember much from DAX. Well, we saw Aaron Montgomery and his family.
Yep. Adam hung out with him quite a bit.
Yep.
Eric was there. So we got to meet them. They had a really nice after party. They had really good food. It was catered.
Yep, that was really good. And then the Cobra printer thing, Cobra Flex.
Yep.
That was pretty impressive. I know nothing about direct to garment, which this isn't. Well, this is direct to film, isn't it?
Yep, direct to film. Direct to garment, I think you load the t-shirt and it goes in and prints over the top of it. But direct to film.
Yeah. Direct to garment is minutes per shirt. This is shirts per minute, pretty much. But I'm basically remembering what I read off their website because it was pretty impressive to the point where I actually looked it up.
That's how you know it's good, folks. Matt Googled it.
Yeah. What else was very interesting? There was a lot of people around Epilogue Laser, but I don't know if that's just because most people don't have a laser or they aren't familiar with them, and it's cool. It's not as cool to me because there's one right there, but
Adam spent a lot of time at the Epilogue Laser, and I'm like, we have one at home.
Yeah, but it's not an Epilogue.
It's not, but we have one at home.
But and then we went to Micro Center and spent some money.
Yeah, we didn't get hit by any semis.
Nope, that was good. Luckily, we weren't in Denver, and I didn't have a trailer, so there's that.
Matt's like, you're driving.
Yep, I have a bad history with driving to Micro Center.
One time.
Hey, 1 out of 1. Yeah, so that was pretty much DAX for us last week.
Yep.
I think Friday. Yeah.
Yep. And
forever ago.
Yeah. I know. And I came back and had orders waiting for me. And you have like a bajillion and a half patches to make.
Yeah. A few more. Well, now I have 3 more patches. I mean, 3 patches. Woohoo. It'll take me longer to digitize it than actually run it.
Yeah, I have a couple of those coming up too. Then it's like, do I really want to spend the time?
I'm mainly doing it just because I can put it on my Instagram and build up a little bit of
picture
that way. Yeah.
Picture awesomeness.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's something I have a big problem with it. I don't know why, but a lot of my customers, they don't want me to share images of their stuff.
Well, that's why you just do it, and when no, yeah, respect boundaries.
Yeah, I mean, it could always be worse. So I've got parallel. I'm going to add contour because of the width of the satins. Not information. Density is, of course, wanting me to do it for everything. So that's something too that's a little bit different in this software is when you set your density, like right now, this is a standard density. It's actually a little high. All of these objects should be visible. You shouldn't see any space in them. And actually, when you sew it out, you're not going to see any space in them. But when you get zoomed in, we're 700%, even at like 600%, you can really see. Let's see, they have 400%. You can see some gaps in there. And so people will, they'll get nervous and they'll increase their density. And it'll actually cause more problems for them when they're stitching. Because if you cram too many stitches in too small of an area, it does really bad things.
That's how you get needle breaks or thread breaks. I mean,
needle breaks, thread breaks. You can get looping from it. There's a whole slew of things that can go wrong. So now I'm going to move around this object. I know I need to bump out my widths here on this. So I'm just going to kind of do it uniformly. The great part about really scripty text is you can always come out just a little bit. And most of the time people can't tell. I mean, unless they hold their business card up next to it. I've had that. So I hit the space bar. That allows me to pan in mid-object. I didn't like where I placed that outside node, so I hit backspace and that moved it backwards. And it's pretty quiet in the comment section today. I blame Matt.
Yeah.
We're gonna tie him.
I mean, the only difference is that Justin's not here.
Well, I guess we know who the eye candy is.
Yeah.
Too bad he's not here. He'd have laughed at that.
Unless he is here. He's just pretending to not be here so he doesn't have to join in.
Oh, I could see that. No.
Calling you out, Justin. Now hiring nerd 3 or 4. I forget which nerd he is now. I got too much clutter in my brain. Now hiring nerd position for Justin.
We'll just start hiring all new nerd positions.
Don't worry. It's an unpaid position, so you don't have to worry about taxes.
You know what's fun? All the nerd positions are unpaid positions. There's not a single paid one.
It's weird how the positions are unpaid, but the positions pay in.
And go across there. That's actually narrow, and I'm not quite sure I like that. So we'll start there and there, and I'm going to cut in.
Ooh, you got to get that text real narrow there.
Yeah, that's actually not what I got to do. I just got to flare it. Can't spare. Oh, no, wait. Do I have enough pieces of flare, Matt? He doesn't get the joke. It's okay.
Sorry, is the way cleaning out some spam.
It's when you know you've made it, when there's lots of spam.
Oh, yeah. Big time.
I'll be a nerd just to have the title. There you go. Oh, you should pull that up.
1 minute. Okay, I clicked it. There it goes. Rusty's Needles and Twisted Threads. I'll be a nerd just to have the title. Well, we're all nerds, so I guess I'll take the time to do some plugging in thingers. So as I could see, we have some people viewing us from YouTube. However, we don't actually have a
metric.
Oh, we do. Right here. Here we go. This is what I was looking for. Oh. So if you aren't watching us on YouTube, we really prefer YouTube because once you're subscribed there, it's a lot easier to find all of our past lives, which we are intending on going back and cataloging them. By we, I mean none of us are going to do it because that's a lot of work. And we have a single live stream that we do much like this one every single week that we've been doing for the past 2 years. So 52 times 2, subtract like the 1 or 2 that we missed. Yeah, there's a lot of lives that need to be cataloged. But luckily we have Justin who helps us with the banners.
Yeah.
So you can kind of look at the thumbnail. This is the word I meant. And you can kind of see what the general synopsis is of the video and
the gist of it.
Yeah, and get it. Otherwise, you can just play them all, which is also cool. And if you're not into YouTube, we have the group. I almost clicked the wrong one. Facebook group. Again, enter this. You can join our group. Tons of free information. If you have any issues, want to show what you made, post it in the group. We'll clap for you, cheer you on. Yeah, I've done a lot of planning and preparedness for this.
Yeah.
The one that we don't do a whole lot with is the actual page, but we do like to share some things in there occasionally, which is not really what happens. It's kind of it's where the live ends. So you can give it a like. Man, I am killing this.
You are.
And then my favorite, which is also Jeff's favorite because I said it's my favorite, is the Discord. Which, if you don't know what the Discord is, it is where everyone comes and you hold hands and you have this excellent community where it's a lot more relaxed and you just kind of chit chat about things. We have channels, which are like different groups that you can join into. Like one is for embroidery machine help, one's for memes, which is the best one. All kinds of memes. Everything is welcome. Just please don't intentionally try to offend people.
Tasteful
memes. There we go. You know it's good because it has a poop emoji before the word memes. So, or is it memes? I don't remember. Yeah, and there is even maybe possibly free designs on there. I don't think there's that many actually, but we have free designs. And deals, if we find deals, they go on there as well. Like maybe you want like 75% off on your twill for patches. That doesn't exist, but if it did, it would be in there. So it's a good reason to be in the Discord. What else am I missing? There's the flat embroidered blooper one, but I think that one's good.
The blooper reel. Those are the best.
Yeah. I need to make a consolidated list on the website with that.
I'm just going through pathing all this. It does something that is not necessarily my favorite. When you copy and paste a letter, it sticks it next to the one that you copied and pasted in the order. So you can see how we just kind of jumped over the T here.
Can you just use tab and like shift tab and everything?
All right. I must have something is on a button.
It's your finger probably.
I mean, I'm looking and I don't have anything holding a button down, but I must because the keyboard shortcut is not working.
We got a comment from Mauricio. Where to go? Okay, I double clicked it, I guess. I don't know. I swear I clicked it once, but hello from Reno, Nevada. I was thinking of Fallout for some reason. Matt, what is your Instagram? My company is Patch Phrase. I don't think I actually have a thinger for it. I don't think we made any of them.
There we go. You don't think we made any of those? I think we do.
I thought Justin was doing it, or did he just type it in? I think he just typed it in. Okay, just give me a second.
Hold on, we've got a question. So, do you mind explaining how did you map underlay and satin stitches in the small E in restaurant? So, I can. We'll go ahead and zoom in on that letter. So, when we're moving through this stuff, we want to make sure that we're pathing it logically. So with the R, I started here and I came up and then I went around this way because I know I need to end down here to connect it to the next letter. So I went up and then I came all the way around in this object. Let's go ahead and we'll just do node edit. So I went all the way to that object and then I moved into this object and you can see that we went right there. And then I did a run stitch. So this is the next object that needs to go in the E. I need to make sure I get that center bar down, but it's too far from the base of the R. So I ran right down the center. I did a run stitch that comes over, up, and over. And then I do the column coming back like this because I want to make sure that, that there's no jumps. There doesn't need to be any jumps or trims or anything. So I want to make sure that I'm actually pathing it. So we did this section here, and I want to end down here on the bottom. So that means logically I need to move up. So we do a run stitch coming up from there, which is where I ended the object. And I can actually shorten that up to there. But we come this way, and then we go up. And now we're going to come to this object that's going to come around the top. So it's going to come that way and down here. And now we can just jump, and this actually, that ending point needs to be, yeah. Jeff's not thinking. The ending point needs to be there, and then we're doing the satin column that's coming down, so that needs to be there. And now we're stopping here, which we then move into the next object, which comes by, and it goes there. So really when I have a letter that is like this one where I'm going to have to do one portion of the letter before I do another portion of the letter, I really want to make sure that I'm pathing that manually with a run stitch, and that I'm making sure that I'm traveling right down the center. I don't really want to do like an edge run underlay on this because this is only about 1 millimeter wide. So I want to make sure that I'm running down the center so it's more like a center run underlay. And then I need to make sure also that my stitch length isn't too long. I should be okay at about 2.5 millimeters, which is what this program defaults to. But I would pull that down to like a 2 millimeter just to be safe, you know, keeping in on that inside. Because you want to make sure that because a lot of times what happens with small lettering, there's two problems that people make with small lettering. The first one is that their underlay run stitches or their travel stitches underneath are too long. The longer they are, the more chance that there's going to be that as the satin stitch comes around, it's going to catch it on the needle's going to catch it on the wrong side and push it outside, and you get these little loops. Makes your satin stitch looks a little funny, and you can see these little loops poking out. And so that's one of the first problems that I see a lot. And then the other problem I see is a lot of people think when you go small, you maintain your same density settings, which actually, as you start going smaller in your stitch width and you're getting narrow and your columns are getting shorter, you want to open up your density from like a point. So let's say I'm running a 0.35 on the upper letters. You know, I run a 0.4 on something a little narrower, and on this smaller text, I'd bump it out to like a 0.5. Right now it's at a 0.4. But generally when I do this kind of stuff, I'll either set it before or I'll do the whole thing. And then I'll come back and select everything and change all the underlay options at once. So those are the, go ahead.
How tall is the text there?
It's about that tall. No, I'm just kidding. We have our handy dandy ruler tool. So this text is going to end up being about 5 millimeters by the time everything pushes and pulls, 5.5 millimeters tall. In the software, you know, from the top to the E to the bottom of the E, we're about 6.1 millimeters. So we're right in there. I mean, we're not super small, but we're maintaining our column width. And really, when you start getting into smaller letters, it becomes more about your column width and your needle penetrations, how much gaps you leave, than it does anything else. So,
and you're changing your density because you're trying not to use like a 60-weight thread. Whereas if you did that, you could leave your density up a little bit higher because it's what, 20% less density or something.
Yeah, so 60-weight thread is approximately 25% less density or 25% thinner. So generally you take 25% off of your density rating for that. So I would actually leave this. This here, I'd probably leave it about a 0.4 if I was using 60-weight thread. I'd want to run a sample just to check. And this I might go just a little bit denser on. And then I would run a sample to make sure that everything's correct. So that's the big thing there is as you begin to digitize and you start to experiment with this kind of stuff, you have to be comfortable sampling. Don't throw your initial garment on there to do it. And after you do your sample, you know, you can make some edits and you can change some things. But it's important to sample so you know what you're going to get before you throw your garment on the machine.
And another big thing with sampling is if you screw up a jacket or a shirt or a cap, save it, because when you want to sample this because you're trying different density, you have a shirt to try it on and it's the same exact material. You know it's going to react the same. Yep. Sure, you don't have to embroider it in the left chest or the sleeve. You could do it on like the lower part. You can do it dead center. There you go. Mm-hmm. That's the easy way.
Yep. I keep trying to use keyboard shortcuts from other software. I'm sure you know that feeling. And that is actually shorter, so we're going to delete it. We'll just digitize it. I thought it was the same length, but it is not.
All right. We're going to pull up a comment from Mark saying, I'll have to watch this later. Stuck in PO. I don't know if that's an I or an L because it looks like an L, which to me, knowing your job, that would be petroleum, oil, and lubricants. But
He's stuck somewhere.
About lubricants and being stuck, but yeah, we're not going to go ahead and do that. So next comment, Mark is saying yes to a question I posted earlier, whether or not you own a Chroma machine and if you own Chroma as well. If you don't own Chroma, however, you can still do the exact same thing Jeff is doing, with the limitation that you can't actually export the file, I believe. Or can you export it? You just can't save it? Neither. No output, which is what it does say when you launch it. So you can kind of experience how the software operates.
You get through all the idiosyncrasies of, weird jump stitches. I really do wish that you could save, because I think it's important that you're able to save a file and sew it out from a piece of software when you're evaluating it. You want to make sure that it's going to do things that you're telling it to do versus, well, I told it to, that should be good enough. Because as we all know, that's not necessarily how embroidery works most of the time.
If it looks good on screen, it'll not look good on the fabric.
Yep. So those are things that we have to watch out for when that's really I think it's important to be able to do that. So I'm going to pull out these grid lines, and we'll pull that one out there. And we're going to.
We also have Rashid saying thank you. It was very useful. So thank you, Jeff.
Not a problem.
And then Dustin has to make fun of me, but he did it wrong. He said he would have joined, and he has his Capri Sun. However, I was not drinking Capri Sun last live. I was drinking Sunny Delight. So
nobody look at those double letters sewing out on the screen. And it's doing a parallel underlay, which it shouldn't be. So let's grab that. That's another reason why it's really important to watch this stuff. I've got here, I can delete one of those, and I can delete one of those. And now I've got those letters, and I can look at the underlay, and it says it's a center line. So let's go ahead and go through a slow redraw.
I called that before.
You totally called that before. So it looks like it's having some travel stitches, and that's what I'm looking at. Don't look at the other one that's sewing twice. We don't look at those, Matt. It's you.
So here's a question. So right now your text on screen looks like garbage because the E extends below and whatever. Do you show your client this, or do you stitch it out and show them the actual stitch out so that you don't have to say, like, I know it doesn't look right on screen, but I promise this will turn out? How do you handle that?
So the way that I like to do it, and I did it a lot that way when I first started, is I always did a test sew of the file. So I would stitch this out on something, and I would show that to my customer because I had a physical stitch out that I could take a picture of and I could send it to them. And then I don't have to worry about the lettering, the deviations in the lettering, and I don't have to explain that to them. As I've gone a little, and it just depends like on the type of lettering, because if it's not like these upper letters, it's not as visible. When you get into small text, you really see it. But the larger letters, you don't see it as much. And so usually when it gets to really small lettering, I'll sew it out. And then I have something that I can physically say, look at this. And they look at it. And that's kind of that's the way I like to handle it.
I like it. It's like a hybrid way of doing it.
Yeah, it is. And, you can send them the digital render, and I could zoom out here, and I would take it to 100%, so that it's a 1-to-1 scale, which is right about there, and they're gonna notice that. I mean, I notice it, and I'm looking at
notice everything. So
no, I don't. But it's gonna be where if I had to rely on this, I couldn't sew it out. I didn't have a machine. I would explain to them, look, before I even show it to them, I'm going to say, look, the lettering on the bottom, it's not flat, but there's distortion in embroidery, and this is the way it has to be to come out flat in the end. So I just want you to keep that in mind before I show you this. And now that I've explained that to you, I'm going to show it to you. Because I think it's easier to prep them with it first than it is to try and explain it after.
I would agree.
Because they're going to look at it and they're going to go, the text isn't right. Oh, yeah, it's got to be that way. It's easier to say before I show you this to you. It's going to be a little off. You need to know this ahead of time, just as a heads up. There you go. So that's the way that I look at it. And that's the way that I would do it. So I do need to repath. There's some pathing issues. You can see we've got the R coming there, and we've got that needs to come up one. So, and that's from the copy and paste errors that I had earlier. So go there, and so I need to bring that up one. So that's all stuff that I would do after the fact. I wish it had, like, if I selected this and then this and then this and right click and said, you know, order by selects, that would be really nice. The other way that you can do that is you can change the color. So now it's yellow, and then I'll do, you know, all of the E, and then I can change that to a different color. And now I can move those in chunks, because this R is going to be there. That one needs to come down one. And so now I've got 5, 6, and 7. And right now that R is over here, and I want the S to be next. So I think it's easier just to change them all by color. So I'll take the S and I'll change it to pink. And now I know that that one needs to come up before the E, or no, we're good. After the E. Yeah. So that's how I would look at doing at aligning that lettering, because I can't do it by sections. So we've got yellow, tan is going to go, and we have that R right there. So this one does need to come up one. So I'm going to bring it up one. And now we have the R after the E. You want the S up one. And so now we have the R down another letter. We're going to bring the T. We're going to bring that up one. And that's how we can get it all kind of pathed without having the right click. So, you know, order by
sequence. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's just kind of a way that you can get around that, so that you can get everything pathed and set up properly. So one of the other things I see quite frequently is when somebody goes to change a color, they'll get that. The fun part is that just means you need to click with the other mouse button. That's literally all it is. You just click with the other mouse button and you're set. So, but I'm not going to go through and reorder all this during this live, because we've already hit our hour. But if you guys do have questions, you can go ahead and drop them in the comments. If they are very, very Chroma specific, you can always go to the Chroma Digitizing Help group, which I admin and run. So I can get your questions answered there. Or as always, you can ask those questions in the Embroidery Nerd group, where we're all there. When you do go to join a group, make sure that you answer all of the questions, because if you don't, we're not going to let you in. And that's answer them all. That's the easy part. So
yeah, the reason we have that is because then you can post any artwork you want, and you don't get come inbox or $5 1 hour. You will not. Very, very, very rare do you get a PM unsolicited.
Yep, and we are very hard on that to make sure that we keep the group as primarily a help group, and not a I don't want to help you, I want to do it for you group.
Yeah.
So, but with that, I don't have anything else. Matt, do you?
I think that's pretty much it, unless if you guys want to leave a comment down below, or wherever it is on whichever platform you're watching on, what topics you think we should cover next week. If you'd like to see Jeff maybe recreate this exact file for a hat or something, I don't know. Just post a comment down and exactly what you'd like us to cover, whether it's something else in Chroma, maybe we should explore Brilliance, any other software, you name it, Jeff's got it. If not,
I have a couple.
But I think that's pretty much all we had this week. Hopefully you guys found it either A, entertaining, B, educational,
or what is it? Both edutainment.
Yeah, threaducation. Yeah,
threaducation. That's my new favorite term, is threaducation.
Hashtag threaducation.
Yeah.
Or pound sign. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Whatever. I think that's pretty much all we had. It's a pretty uneventful week.
Yeah. So I guess with that, I'm Jeff Fuller from Fuller Embroidery Works, and that is Matt Enderly from Patch Phrase, and we are both here representing the Embroidery Nerd. Thank you guys for your time, and we will catch you later.